Hey everybody, and welcome back to Lead Therapy. Well, welcome to the ATF Came to My House Part 2. I'll call it right now the fishing expedition. Before I get on with the video, I just want to clarify one thing from the first video. When we were talking about the person that I sold the particular firearm in question, and I gave them the best description that I could remember, since that happened 6, 7, 8 months ago, or however long ago it was, that it did not match the description of the person that had been arrested with this firearm, who was a felon. So I just want to put that out there. Also, to start off this part of the video, as I explained to the ATF agents that were here, not any time in my life have I purchased a firearm or firearms in the purpose of to sell them. I am a collector, as I explained to them, like I said, numerous times, and I believe I said in the latter part of the first video, that's when the guy ATF agent, which of course he knows this, they're, like I said, they're just fishing, that he said, well, what makes you decide whether you're going to sell something or not? Well, of course, that's everybody knows. With anything that you decide to sell something, maybe you just don't use that particular firearm or whatever item that you're selling. Maybe you don't, you purchased it and you don't like how it shoots or how it feels in your hand, or maybe there was a problem with it. Maybe it's finicky with ammo, different things. Most people that I know of that try to trade their firearm or sell their firearm is to use the money towards another firearm that they're interested in. And like I said, not one time have I ever purchased a firearm to purposely turn around and sell it to make money. So like I said, after talking about the particular firearm in question, being told on the phone, and when they were here, we believe that you about selling that firearm, you're not in trouble and all that. Then it just did a complete turnaround, and like I said, a big fishing expedition, if you want to say that. And the first thing that came about was right when I had just started talking to the guy in fish, talking to him about what makes you decide to sell a firearm. And so I thought that was going to be it. Then the woman says, well, how many firearms do you have? And quickly, right away, I said, well, what does that have to do with what's going on here now? And she says, well, of course, when this came up, we do investigating. And I said, well, of course you do. And she goes, of course, we know that you don't have a record and all this stuff. And of course, I said, of course I don't, or I wouldn't be able, to pass background checks to purchase firearms or have a concealed weapons permit. And she goes, well, it came to our attention that you have in the past made numerous purchases of firearms. I said, well, of course I have, because I collect guns. That's my hobby. Which a lot of people, that whatever hobby they have, they want to have, whether it's baseball cards or stamps, coins, whatever. They collect them. That's what collectors do. And so she goes, but it's against the law to purchase them and then intend or sell them to try to make a profit. I said, like I just said previous in the video, I told them I don't do that. And so then the guy spoke up, and he started naming off just a few names of firearms that I had purchased in the past, and I don't know how long ago that I would have purchased them. And what it seemed that he was interested in, and what they were reading off a list, I said it wasn't a big list. I mean, only thing that he named was like 3 or 4 firearms. There might have been more on it, but it might have not got to that. But he was naming off firearms that were like inexpensive firearms. Excuse me. And the first thing that he said was RG ROM 10. And for those of you who don't know what that is, the company RG ROM back mainly in the 60s in Germany made cheap firearms that are known not to function very well. The reason I like them, they're made in Germany. The last place that my dad was stationed at, and that I remember when he got out of the service, we were in Germany. And then the cool thing about these firearms is they have a stamp on each one, the date that they actually made. And I say the date, actually year that they were actually made. And I don't know how long ago it was, but then once I found out about these, and of course, looking up, I knew that they're, like I said, they're not very reliable, but you can get them very inexpensive. And I was able to find some at different gun shops and pawn shops here locally. But I really took a liking to them, especially when you can get a good condition one that's as old, or even get one that's actually got the box for it. And like I said, they're not worth any money, but I just like them because of their history. And so I even purchased some off of Gunbroker. And so when he mentioned those, I said, well, I have those. Now, I will say at no time did they actually ask to see anything or ask to see a firearm. They never did. And then he mentioned, I believe it was either a Davis or a Lorson or something like that, one of those cheaper, small little pocket pistols, semi-automatic. I think he said it was a 380, but they also make them, I think, in like a 25s and 22s and all that. And so I could see where they were going, and like I said, this list those 2 or 3 items that he was talking about were cheap firearms. And so, like I said, they didn't ask to see anything, but to prove to them that I actually have these and have not sold them, I went to where I had them stored and brought them out. And of course, I told them what I was doing. I was bringing them out. They're not loaded or anything like that. And I'll just show you what I brought to them. I have 2 different cases like this. And in this one case has all those little German small revolvers. Yeah, but they also made semi-automatics too as well. But I really like the revolvers. And like I said, it'll tell you in German. It's even got some of them have German words on them, and the actual year that they're made. And I showed them the case. They seemed to be more interested in the case and what it was originally used for than the firearms that I'm trying to show them to prove that that whatever he had on that list that I had. I was going to ask them what the serial number, and I would have found it for them, but they never got to that. I said, like I said, he also said something about it was either a Davis or Lorson. I think he said 380. I have another case that has all those little pistols in it, and somewhere in here among it, it's in here. But like I said, they didn't seem interested in actually. If they would have gave me a serial number, I would have been glad to find it for them. Then they mentioned the only other firearm they mentioned was like a Tech 9, an interdynamic Tech 9. And I'm a collector. I love the late 80s, early 90s type firearms. I wish I collected them a long time ago, but I wasn't into firearms back then. And so I tried to collect as many of the different model numbers, like your Tech 9. Then there was a Tech DC 9. Then the last version, I think it was AB10. There was other versions which were like the interdynamics, which I didn't purchase or haven't had a chance to. And but once I figured that they weren't even interested, I could have, whatever serial number they're looking for, I could have got that. But it never came to that. Then to my shock, but of course I could see that what they were fishing or what something was going on. They tell me, well, we're going to give you this letter, and it's what they call a warning, and it's really later on you'll hear it's really a cease and desist letter. So let me cover up my information. You won't be able to see this. I didn't get a paper copy. They were going to actually send to my email address, but I didn't want to give them that either. So took a picture of it. I didn't even pick it up and read it because I didn't agree with what they were doing. And so I'll just read it to you. It says, from the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, Tampa Field Division. And I love this heading. Notice of unlicensed firearms dealing in violation of federal law. And it's got my name and address, and it says it was hand delivered. And it says, Dear Mr., my last name. Recently, your participation in the purchase and sale of multiple firearms has come to the attention of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives and the ATF. Last time I checked, it's not against the law to make a multiple purchases of firearms. I do know that there is a law, I think, what is it, if you purchase two or more I believe it's handguns within, what is it, 5-day period, that it gets reported. But of course, I know this. And as far as selling multiple firearms over my lifetime, sure, yeah. But not selling them all to individuals, either selling or trading them to FFL dealers at a show or at a shop or whatever. But, you know, they have their agenda. Has come to their attention, like I said, of alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, ATF. ATF is responsible for enforcement of the federal firearms laws, and as part of that duty, the ATF licenses those persons lawfully dealing in firearms and prevents unlicensed dealing in violation of federal law. We seek the cooperative efforts of the general public in fulfilling the mandate. Your firearms activity appears, not is or anything like that. That doesn't say definitely. Your firearms activity appears to bring you within the definition of a dealer in firearms as a term defined by the Gun Control Act. And they go on to say what a dealer is. A dealer in firearms includes persons engaged the business of buying and selling firearms at wholesale and retail. A person engages in business as a dealer in firearms by devoting time, attention, and labor to dealing in firearms as a regular course of trade and business with the principal objective of livelihood and profit through the repetitive purchase of and resale of firearms. And they give the section number. A person convicted of unlawfully engaging in the business of dealing in firearms without the license is subject to imprisonment for not more than 5 years and or fined up to $250,000. There's a little bit more, but one thing I wanted to address is, you know, the time and devoting time and attention and labor in dealing in firearms and all that. I don't know if some of you most likely don't know, but I have been the lone caregiver of my mother for the past 5 years, and she had been very ill, and like I said, the lone caregiver for the past 5 years. Me not knowing anything about medical stuff and things like that, learning this stuff, working with her, having her do her exercises, having to clean up after her, bathe her, everything like that, because it's the right thing to do if you're able to do it instead of putting them in a home. On August 21st, she passed away. So for the past 5 years, that very rarely do I had time, maybe one time a week would I be able to leave the house to be able to get some groceries or something, or if I had to take her to a doctor's appointment. So for the labor intensive things it would take to purchase a lot of firearms, but then, you know, a lot of people, if they're going to sell something, will clean it up, and then the labor with dealing in the firearms, I didn't have time to do that for the past 5 freaking years. But as I told them that too as well, oh, I'm sorry she passed away, but, you know, like I said, they have their agenda. This letter serves to officially advise you to cease and desist engaging in the business of dealing in firearms until you have sought and obtained a federal firearms license. A federal firearms license will authorize the purchase and resale of firearms for a licensed business premises. Continued activity without the required license could result in the recommendations of criminal prosecution. And then in the last sentence, it just goes on to say how I could obtain said license. And then it has the date and everything. And then it says, I hereby acknowledge the receipt of this notice of your signature. And then they asked me to sign it, and I told them that I'm not going to sign it. And they wrote here at the bottom, refuse to sign. And of course it says it's not admission of guilt if you do sign it. So that's where we're at. And so the basic thing is I am not allowed to sell any firearms, like a personal sale to somebody, or I could go to jail. I did then say over my lifetime, any firearms that I've either traded to somebody, not an FL, traded or sold to somebody, privately, what happens if something comes up, that somebody used one of those? They go, well, no, we're talking about anything from now that, that you've purchased and that you've sold now. I then asked the question, well, does this affect me, owning firearms right now, or purchasing firearms, or my concealed weapons permit? And they said no. I then asked the question, am I allowed to sell or trade firearms to a licensed FFL? And they said yes. Of course, if I do plan on doing that, I will call and get confirmation on that, but I'm real leery to do that too as well. So that's where we're at. And so I just wanted to put that information. I'm sorry, it's going to be over 16 minutes. And of course, a lot of people from my first video and all that says, people giving advice, and I've watched videos too, don't let them in your house, make sure you have a lawyer, you don't need to talk to them, and all this stuff. Well, I had 3 days because I wasn't here when they first got here, and then there was the long weekend holiday, so who's to say that I may have or may have not, got some advice. So that's the video. Let me know what your thoughts are. It's just the ATF, what they do. How long ago was it? 6 or 7 years ago when they made the change from about the arm braces or pistol braces, and then they changed back again. Also, somewhere around that time was that they wanted to try to ban the green tip ammunition, and then there was such a an outpouring of people, complaining about that, and it didn't go through. And then just recently, before this happened to me, them going after the company Q for the honey badger, and saying that what they were selling was an SBR. It's not a pistol with a stabilizing brace. So that's the video. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching for such a long video, and we'll see you hopefully in a better video that's a lot less crappier than this one.